Why, hello there. Please, come in, get out of the bad weather, and join us once again for Rainy Day Reading. I'm here with returning guest, Megan R. How are you doing, ma'am?
Doing just fine.
Good to hear. And I'm also here with new guest, another general writer from Infinite Rainy Day, Tom Tama Langley. Is that right?
Yes.
Good, because I didn't write it down. Alright. I actually remembered someone's name. That was goddamn impressive of me.
Well done.
But guys, do you know why we're here? Do you know what time it is?
It's clamp time!
Clamp time! Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Alright, and this time we are looking at Legal Drug, a series from the early 2000s from Clamp's works. And you two, I know for a fact, know way more about this series than I did, because before this podcast, I had never read it, so one of you pick up to what do you think about the series? Any, like, little thoughts you want to leave before we kind of go into a 50-minute segment on what we've been reading?
Well, it's actually kind of funny that you picked the book. Well, admittedly, I volunteered, and I think you already pinned Tama for this, because we had both been discussing reviewing this and its sequel series for some time. Like, Tama was like, you would do Legal Drug for your regular feature, then I would pick up with Drug and Drop.
Yeah, that was how we were going to do it, because obviously it's the nearest series that Clamp have ever come, despite being, you know, sort of a group that sort of are sort of very much based around sort of romance, love conquers all, we're going to have as many sort of yaoi yuri pairings as possible. They've never before, Legal Drug, actually done what would be described as a Shonen Ai series. They've obviously done a yuri series in the shape of Miyuki in Wonderland, which is sort of a largely missable work. But Legal Drug is really what they basically Clamp go, right, we're doing a BL series.
More or less. But
which is funny, because our two main leads are actually straight, at least that's what I got from it. Kinda, yeah.
Kinda. I do like, it is a series that basically Clamp have gone, well, you know, we could do the typical semi-UK thing, but it's like, well, we could, but we're Clamp and we don't do things normally.
Yeah, that's definitely Clamp in a nutshell. Although I will admit, before we get into what we're reading, I think Kaiki and Saiga were like the two cutest couple I've ever seen.
Yes.
Oh yes, they are adorable in their own fashion.
Well, we'll get into more that later, but of course, as you all know, we like to start our little segment off with actually maybe my favorite part of the podcast, more so than even the in-depth discussion. So let's start with you, Tama, since you're new to this. What have you been reading lately?
At the moment, I have been reading Requiem of the Rose King, which is a manga by Aya Kano, who's the also person behind Ottoman. At the moment, I'm going to do a overview of it at some point. It's basically what happens when you get Shakespeare's Richard III and you make it more bishy and weirdly interesting.
So are you saying that I could read Shakespeare and get all my shonen ai and shoujo cliches all crammed into one?
Bingo!
My god, you should be the Billy Mays of fucking manga. That sounds amazing.
The really interesting thing about it is it basically goes, you know how in the original Shakespeare play it tends to go, oh, Richard is a hunchback, Richard is... Basically, throughout history it's basically been suggested Richard is deformed in some way. What Aya Kano does, and what Aya Kano does really well, is basically go as well, Richard is basically a non-male, non-female, so it's like, well, actually Richard isn't...
Basically, Richard is intersexed.
Richard is intersexed, yeah. And it's a really interesting take upon it. It's obviously considering sort of the Richard III as a person has been sort of a lot more historically vindicated at the moment. It's sort of very interesting to sort of see a take on that by a Japanese audience. It's an interesting work. It's obviously got sort of... It does... In some places, it is a little bit slavish to the play, but it is a good read. And it is a really interesting work and an interesting take upon the sort of a character who, up until this point, has been very much painted in one style historically.
Alright, well, that does sound very interesting. Alright, Megan, that leads us to you. What have you been reading lately?
I have been reading and rereading what might be my favorite series to come out this year, and that is The Ancient Magus' Bride by Kori Yamazaki. It's a shoujo fantasy series about this Japanese girl named Chise, who is basically bought to become the apprentice of this literally towering skull-headed mage named Elias Ainsworth. And basically, in a way, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Harry Potter, in that, you know, this normal person who's thrust into this world of magic and alchemists. Well, what she finds out is Chise is something that within that universe called a sleighbegi, which means that she basically both generates and absorbs magic at an incredible rate, which gives her the potential to be an incredible mage, but it also makes her very desirable to undesirable sorts. But it incorporates a lot of interesting little bits and pieces of kind of English magical mythology, and there's... God, it's really hard to describe why this series is so good. It's got really great artwork, and I really like the interplay between Chise and Elias. Like, they are kind of building this up to a romance, and some, you know, early on it is kind of weird considering their whole mentor-apprentice deal, but particularly once it gets into the second volume, we start learning a bit more about Elias, and their relationship starts to equal out some, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I am stunned beyond belief that this is coming from fucking Seven Seas, a company which...
Yeah, that's
a company
surprising.
that's releasing the worst manga ever made next year.
Ugh. Yes, a company that's mostly known for releasing, you know, a bunch of harem and moe garbage and a zillion Alice in the Country of Whatever spin-offs, is releasing what might be, like, one of the best shoujo series I've read in years. Like, this feels like something that would have fit in perfectly with, like, the CMX library. And I just want to shout this from the rooftops at anybody who's into shoujo, anybody who's into fantasy, anybody who's into just good manga needs to be reading this. This needs to be a hit. And
What's
I needed
the
to
name
actually
again?
write this. The Ancient Magus' Bride.
Okay. I'm
And
sorry
I
to
need to-
interrupt your thought there. Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say I need to actually write this up for a proper review. If I can, you know, somehow translate my Muppet-like flailing going yay into proper words.
Yeah, I've sort of just seen the art for that. That is really quite impressive.
It does sound very nice. I'm definitely gonna have to write that down when I'm editing this and look into it myself. But I'm glad you spoke about Seven Seas. I'm really glad, because that transitions very nicely into what I'm going to talk about.
Oh no, please tell me you're not reading Monster Musume.
Oh no, that's the good thing I like from them.
Oh dear.
Oh no,
no,
I'm
no,
talking
this-
about the far, far worse thing they're going to put out next year.
Oh, I was wondering if you're gonna bring this
Oh,
up.
I'm absolutely going to bring this up, because goddamn, when I saw the announcement that they're publishing this, because this is the most vile, fucking sickening series I've ever read. It is called Masamune-kun's Revenge, and, okay, sit down. You guys are not going to be ready for this, so sit down. So, there's this kid, Masamune, and when he's in elementary school, he confesses to a girl who turns him down. And, you know, she goes a little far, she humiliates him and all that, and, okay. 10 years later, he has spent all this time, you know, dropping a lot of weight he had as a child, just kind of bulking up, you know, basically becoming a very desirable young man for one reason.
Oh dear.
So that he could make the girl who turned him down and humiliated him in elementary school fall in love with him now in high school and humiliate her the way she humiliated him.
Wow, that doesn't sound petty at all.
No. You see, the funny thing is, I agree. That's literally going so far beyond. It's like it's like when something goes so far into retro that it's not retro anymore. This is going so far into petty. It's somehow in the no longer petty. Just should be in a mental hospital range at this
I was
point.
gonna say, that's also not the least bit psychotic, and also I cannot imagine how this series could go on very long. It's kind of once he gets his revenge, it's like,
It
well,
is a
then what?
monthly. It's a monthly series. I shouldn't even surprise anyone with this. Based on a light novel.
Ugh.
Yeah, and it's been running monthly, and I read it a year ago. I got up to chapter 15. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible, as it's basically just a big document about how this guy keeps trying to learn more and more about this girl, get more into her life. And the worst part is, there are people that actually want to help him. And that was really the most vile part, because it's like, it could almost be an interesting series on its own if you know, no one supported the main character. If this was just his own insane ramblings and dedication to do this. And you could almost mark it down as like a thriller or a horror series at that point. But no, the girl, of course, has a maid who wants to help him do this. There are people around who think they'd make a cute couple who doesn't know about his plan that wants him to get with her. And even the girl, of course, as we get into it, we see the girl, like, start to let her guard down, start to fall for him more and more, even though she has some, oh, I had something happen to me in the past that won't let me say yes to some guy because, blah, I don't like men for some reason. And of course, it's just some chick that doesn't like men for some, a big obligatory reason that she has to not like men. And it was terrible. Oh God, it's like PTSD flashbacks just talking about this. It's terrible. It was terrible.
You obviously can't see this, but I'm just making the most horrified expression possible. Just like,
who's the art? Oh dear. I'm literally looking up the author to see what other travesty they've created, because this person clearly has some sort of issue against.
I would love to know that every bad.
Oh God.
Oh boy,
what?
talk.
Oh God. He literally has done what appears to be largely. Let me have a look. He seems to do this a lot because he's the sort of he's done shoujo series, which I'm surprised by.
Really? Oh come on, you gotta give us names, dude. We gotta see what we know.
The guy is called Takioka Hazuki. He has done like this is by far his most famous work. He seems to have done a lot of one shots, and yeah, most of his thing is yeah. This is like he's also a light novelist.
Yeah.
And I have a horrible feeling, sod's law, this thing will get a bloody anime. You know it.
Oh, it's gonna get an anime. It's gonna be a hit when it comes out here. It's
gonna get picked up by Sentai.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to torture and laugh and point at whoever on the seasonal staff gets stuck with Masamune-kun's Revenge when it gets picked up for an anime, because it's going to get picked up for an anime. If that shonen sample bullshit manga can get picked up, again, another terrible light novel series, can get picked up for an anime, then Masamune-kun's Revenge is going to get picked up. Absolutely is.
This is making Monster Musume look like fucking fine art. So
okay, here's the thing. Everyone keeps saying, Monster Musume is terrible, and I agree. It's, like, terrible. It's a horrible harem series. I can tell by reading it, because I've read it. I'm actually up to date on that series. I can tell the author at least wants to try to be fan service with style.
Yeah.
Like, he obviously knows he's making fan service, and he at least wants to try to make good fan service.
But he's like, I'm basically producing softcore porn.
This is not bad.
This is just malicious, mean shit.
This is just somebody working through their issues through their work.
Well, he's not working through his issues because he's continuing to dwell upon them in the series.
That's a good point. He's not working through them. He's basically writing his own horrifying fantasy. Like it's almost, he must have wanted to do this to someone.
Yeah.
There must have been this girl that existed in his elementary, middle, and high school, and he must have dreamed of doing this.
This must have been to him what The Room was to Tommy Wiseau, basically a revenge fantasy. Like, oh, I'll show her, I'll make a movie, or I'll make this manga, and I'll show her what a terrible bitch she was. Ha 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 ha!
This is looking like it's a personal thing, isn't it? This is a personal project. That's not worrying at all.
It's
a personal project that got popular and is coming stateside in the summer of next year.
Let me guess who's published. I don't even have to guess. It's 7 Seas.
You don't have to guess because I already said I was really glad Megan brought up 7 Seas. It's those assholes. It's the same people. Okay, explain to me how the same company that puts out Monster Musume and now this can put out, like what you just said, apparently one of the best shoujo series you've read, Megan, And A Centaur's Life, which is one of the best little slice-of-life series I've ever read.
Yes, and
Yeah.
even some of the Owl spin-offs aren't bad. They also put out, what was it? I was just thinking of it. The Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, which is a bizarre little shonen series, but it's wonderful. And apparently not selling at all. But, for the longest time, they were known for just putting out every sort of moe and harem garbage that no other company would touch.
Seven Seas have basically become the Tokyo Pop replacement, because it's like, well, no one else is going to touch us. We better pick it up, otherwise this isn't going to sell.
And their origins are weird, because they basically started out as an OEL company. And they still make some bank on that. They still put out, like, those James Patterson adaptations, and those sell.
That's nicely because James Patterson sells full stop, but
Well, yeah, but
yeah, it's just the thing is sort of at the moment it's literally Seven Seas. I think Yen is sort of, but what basically you get is some really nice series that fall beyond the cracks because basically they're not published by one of the big magazines.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Yeah,
considering that despite what I just said, the first chapter of A Centaur's Life is the centaur in question being self-conscious about her vagina.
oh god, yes.
Yeah. Again, I stand by it. It's a great slice of life series.
But that first chapter.
Not the chapter I would have picked to start it.
No. The thing is, it's sort of it's with very much with the whole thing at the moment is it's basically you have Yen Press, you have Viz, you have basically Kodansha have re-entered the market now because they're basically now publishing a lot of their series themselves, and then Seven Seas are basically the vacuum cleaner, and just everything else that's not picked up or released by one of those three just sort of gets sucked up regardless of its quality.
Yeah, they tend to pick up more from kind of, I guess, the edgier magazines, like Kodansha and some of their affiliated companies like Vertical. Kodansha covers the big stuff, Vertical gets the arty stuff. Yen picks up some of the lesser mainstream stuff.
Yen, I think, does Durarara, Yotsuba.
Yes.
They pick up a lot of Square Enix related ones.
Chi Sweet Home is Vertical. Yes, Yen has a really strong relationship with Square Enix. Which unfortunately means they publish things like the Kingdom Hearts manga. Ugh.
And then you have Dark Horse, and Dark Horse are just sort of in the corner picking up stuff like very occasionally.
Dark Horse puts out Gantz and Panty and Stocking. That should tell you. That's right. The Panty and Stocking manga is out in English. I have not read that yet. I really like the anime. I should pick that up.
But it's appropriate to bring up Dark Horse because they are the ones who are in fact publishing the work we're talking about today.
That's right, and it is probably time we got to that instead of bitching about Seven Seas, huh? Although we could go on forever about this, but that is right. We are covering Legal Drug. Yay!
Woo.
So, what is Legal Drug about? Well, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to go for this, Megan?
Sorry. Basically, it's about the titular shop, Legal Drug, which is just seems like your average, ordinary neighborhood pharmacy, run by the loving couple of Kakai and Saiga, and they have two young boys in their employ, Kazuhaya Kudo and Riko Himura, both literally boys they found injured on the street and took in as assistants. But they also have a side business doing basically all sorts of supernatural handiwork.
Pantywork? That's what you're going with there?
Handiwork. Handy.
Did I really hear you say handy as panty? Okay, well, I feel dumb.
The thing is, I feel with this series is it's almost in places it is a prototype of what they would do later with Holic, but in some places I think it's actually more cohesive with Holic. It's very much less monster of the week and therefore more sort of filling in the gaps in places is my overall feeling with it. I mean, the biggest issue, which is sort of obviously is going to sort of become a major part of what we're going to be talking about, is this series basically stopped mid sort of arc because of reasons.
Yeah, once again, it comes like, oh, it's a Clamp series, so of course it's going to be canceled before it's done. But in this case, it's because the magazine it was running in was canceled. So there's not much they could do.
Clamp just has terrible luck.
That's what you get when you're a shoujo artist who doesn't attach yourself to a single magazine.
Yeah.
You don't get that sort of security.
Yeah, very true. But this one did get, which by the way, that is, as someone who reads a lot of just little 20-chapter things that come off of Shonen Jump, Shonen Magazine, Shonen Weekly, it's crazy for me to have heard today that there's an actual sequel, because it was like such a normal thing to just see, oh, there's no ending, whatever.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and Clamp were saying they're going to come back to it for years, and like, yeah, sure, pull the other leg, it has bells on it, maybe it'll get the X then as well, but nope, actually, they did actually announce a sequel for this, and it's been in publishment since 2011. They keep going off and on hiatus with it, along with some of the sequels to some of their other series. So it is currently ongoing. But we'll get to that first of all. So really we should, before we get much further, talk about the characters themselves.
Okay, here's what I think of the characters. Kaiki and Saiga were the cutest couple ever. I really liked both of them. Kazuhaya was perhaps my favorite character, because, he was the hyperactive kind of guy, he was the nice guy, the naive guy, but, he also had his side that, obviously, he had his own little mystery going through the series. I think that was kind of the saddest thing about the series ending, before I heard there's a sequel, is that, wow, so you've been building up these two mysteries for these two main characters this whole time, and nope, no ending for them. Okay. We're just gonna have this big school arc to end it off. Oh, okay. Well, fuck you then. But I'm glad there's a sequel series. And then you get to Himura, who seems very much kind of the, I'm brooding because I'm brooding. And it's like, to be fair, he does get a bit more of a personality, like, by the third volume. But for the first two volumes, I found him to be the most insufferable character, did I say that right? Insufferable character.
Yeah.
Just because he just seems like he's this brooding, very sorrowful person, and there are very little other personality traits besides that.
To actually bring things back to a comment you made earlier, Tama, you said before that this didn't necessarily apply to the whole semi-uke dynamic, and I'd kind of argue that it kind of does. I mean, you can basically break it down. Rikuo is the seme, Kazuhaya is the uke. Kazuhaya is the overly emotional, the very girly-looking one, and the one who's also very naive, particularly when it comes to sex. And oh god, everybody loves pushing that button.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, this is totally going off topic. Can we just say I loved the little short side chapter that was like, oh hey, Kaiki's now the mother to Kazuhika, or no, the father I should mean, because that's right.
No. Kakai's the mother and Saiga's the father.
Well, yeah. Well, that kind of kills the joke if we don't explain why they become that, though. But whatever. I agree to it. I totally agree with it.
I do agree to somewhat. It's not as bad as some other series have done it, where basically it's like, oh, the sniveling sort of nuke that's sort of very extraordinarily feminine. That's the thing. I think it is sort of Clamp doing their riff on it, but it's not as sort of fixed as it was.
It's not as trope laden as it could be.
I mean, you do have the really innocent about sex, and it's sort of, oh my god, look, I've got a condom, and it is Clamp very much sort of doing, haha, isn't this funny? We're doing a BL series, but we're not doing a BL series because it's magic, and we're doing a BL series.
And again, I'd like to point out, I find it really funny that the Boy Love series, the two main characters, are straight.
See, the thing is, yes, they're both searching for these two women in their life, but it doesn't really come off straight, because in both cases, it's their sisters.
Yeah.
Kazuhaya is searching has this mysterious connection to his twin sister, Kei, and Rikuo's big thing is that he's looking for his sister Tsukiko, who disappeared mysteriously and apparently very bloodily.
Wait, it's his sister? When did that come up? Because I totally missed that, if so.
It's not really explained in Legal Drug. It comes up in Drug and Drop.
Of course it fucking does! So, okay, well, I'm so sorry then that what I'm explaining about Legal Drug is completely fucking debunked in the sequel that I didn't know about until 10 minutes before recording.
Plus, this is the rule of Clamp. It's like, yes, straight, inverted commas. Yes, they're straight. Of course they are. Yes. Clamp, this is the thing with Clamp. It's like, yeah, you know how everyone in like most series is like heterosexual. Nope. Everyone's bisexual in our series. It's like, what are you doing, Clamp? No, I do think the sort of the actually it's interesting that they do have, you know, a sort of a couple who are sort of, well, it's sort of haha, isn't this sort of subtexty, is that, and then they have Kake and Saiga, and it's just like, well, they are just a married couple. They bicker like a married couple.
Yeah.
Yep, they bicker and they just kind of have their hands all over each other, and it's perfectly normal. It's just what they are.
It's funny that the series wanted to make a joke about Kaiki being the mother, because Saiga's way more the mother. I mean, he knows how to sew, he knows how to cook. I mean, he fits the tropes, is what I'm basically saying. Like, I don't want to come off and say that's all stuff that, like, only women should do. I'm just saying, he fits the tropes of the time, which even then, I guess, we're kind of fading.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I guess I found that kind of funny.
And I suppose you do then have with that, you know, the sort of the complete inverse of the semi-UK sort of stereotype in terms of physical appearance, because Saiga's tiny. No, Kake is tiny compared to Saiga, and Saiga's like this 6 foot heavily built, and it's like, well, he's the.
Although this is Clamp we're talking about, so everybody's, you know, built like a beanpole.
Except, yeah, unless you're sort of dealing with like the really early series, and then everyone is like half the cast is built like a beanpole.
But yeah, beyond that, there's not so much of a plot as it is. It is fairly episodic early on, although it's less chapter episodic and more volume episodic as they go on their various errands.
I'd say that's true about maybe Volume 3. Volume 1 and 2, I think, are pretty episodic. Like, because I know Volume 3 was basically one big mystery at this all-boys high school, which...
That was Clamp just throwing their hands up like, fuck it, we're just going full Shonen Ai.
Yeah, no, it totally was. Like, no joke, I think that they basically was just like, yeah, we need these boys to look like girls, but just say they're boys. So just draw a girl and we'll put boy over it.
But it's like, okay, it's like all boys academy, all the boys are in love with each other. They have beauty contests where boys dress in drag, and it's just like, they're just being shameless and having tons of fun about it.
To be fair, though, I was having tons of fun reading it, too, because it's very clear they were just like, you know what, we want to do this, let's just do it.
Yes, it's one of the best parts of Legal Drug, admittedly.
It is Clamp, I would say, at their most uninhibited. It's literally, I mean, considering this was being written alongside, you know, X 1999, where Clamp, well, we're going to basically do the nastiest, bloodiest thing we can do, and it's like, it seems like this was their outlet to sort of go, well, we're going to have some fun with an all-boys school, because this is... That is the thing, it seems like this is the light relief series that they were writing in order to sort of not go completely nuts from writing X.
I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that too. Although I'll admit, the only thing I know about X is having watched the anime movie. I have not read the manga. And for good reason, because I don't want to have to read it, actually like it, and then realize, oh, I'm never going to read the end of this. I think I explained that in the Clover episode. But before, of course, Volume 3, Volume 1 and 2 is basically, what's the characters' names? Kazuhaya and Himura going out to various locations in order to get supernatural objects, and basically the way they kind of can get these objects is they both have supernatural powers of their own. Himura has a very basic power, he can break things, is basically it. Which I think is kind of funny how simple a power he gives.
And it doesn't come up all that often.
Yeah, it comes up every now... It comes up when it's needed, which I think is fine. I mean, there's no reason to simply break everything in his path, and I think even he gets that. The power that gets the most focus is definitely Kazuhaya's, who has if he touches a person or an object... He sees visions of their memories of before, And that's a lot of how we end up finding out about Himura and Kazuhaya's past. Is he ends up seeing a lot of Himura's past by touching various objects of him, and because of that, he ends up relating Himura's past into his own. And I think that was the one sad thing about this series ending, was I really actually did get to enjoy a lot of the mystery behind these two characters. It's perhaps the one reason I really didn't hate Himura completely, and like it's part of the reason I was able to sympathize so much with Kazuhaya. It's because for Kazuhaya, we have this whole mystery of he never went to school, he never lived like a normal kid, he was a part of something else with his sister, and that something else is never explained in this series. But we do know that he made a promise to her never to separate, and the fact that we never see her in the series, well, he broke that promise. But there's one thing I actually want to ask you guys about that. He thinks back on it a lot, but he doesn't seem to be very interested in going back. Is that because he doesn't fully remember his past, or?
Oh no, we'll get to it when we talk about Drug and Drop, but he remembers quite a bit.
Okay.
He just doesn't like to think on it.
Again, I'd like to remind everyone, these two apparently knew to read that. I didn't even know Drug and Drop existed until right before we recorded this, so...
I've only read Legal
I'm sadly
Drug.
a little out of the loop here.
I've only read Legal Drug. I've been trying to get hold of Drug and Drop, but basically I've only been able to find Legal Drug in decent quality at the moment.
Okay.
Whereas I've been collecting Drug and Drop more or less. It's been released. It's just Dark Horse's schedule is kind of erratic.
Okay.
But as you're saying, yeah, the first two volumes, it's a bit more episodic, and there's some vague crossovers with some of Clamp's other works, particularly of the artist's other works. But yeah, unless you've read them, you wouldn't be able to pick it up. Like, there's one point where they have to sneak into a shrine to pick up a vase with Narcissi? Whatever. Narcissus on it. And that actually ties into a later story in Holic, like volume 8, 9-ish. Or there's one where Kazuhaya has to get a girl's uniform for a task, and he ends up trading it with Hinata, who is the lead character from Suki.
Wait, are you serious? Is that why? I was like wondering why this named girl came out of nowhere just to give this guy her uniform, but was she really the lead in another series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
There's also the other crossover on the Holic side where Kimihiro goes into the store from Drug and Drop, buys something off the main two characters, and goes, well, they seem connected and close to each other. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, they did that in both the manga and the show.
Yeah, which is the other thing about Legal Drug is it's one of like 2 or 3. I think Clover is the major other one that has never had an anime.
Yeah.
It's like the one, because everything else I think Clamp has ever done, including Miyuki in Wonderland, and including, I think Gate 7 is the only other one I can think of but that's obviously a more recent series that's never had an anime.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a reason it crosses over with those particular works, and then it comes back to the artist, because Legal Drug is a little unusual in that the artist here is not Makona, who's generally the lead artist for most of Clamp's work. It's by Tsubaki Nakoi. Tsubaki, usually her role within like Clamp's group, she is kind of a character designer and an assistant. But every once in a while she gets to be a lead artist on a few things. She was lead artist on Wish, she was lead artist on Suki, the one I love, this series, and she actually worked with Makona together on Holic. And her art style has evolved a lot over the years. And some of the early stuff, it's kind of rough. Like Suki in particular is just kind of, ugh. But honestly, I like her art style more than Makona's.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Mokona's art style is nice, but at times it's like there is too much. You're making this character more complex than they need to be. It's very pretty, but you're basically bringing your A game to every single thing you're doing, and it's nice to see from Clamp, a art style that is more. It's actually a more refined. It's a more minimalist.
Yes.
style. And it's I don't think had legal drug been done in Mokona's style, that it would have been as well produced a series.
I agree.
Yeah, this was a very simple series artistically, but that doesn't mean it was bad. There were many beautiful moments, especially during a lot of the bigger supernatural moments.
The fish.
Oh yeah.
The first
fish.
yes, that was
fig
the first
tree.
chapter. That's just what I was thinking of. The fish swimming around the fig tree in the house. It was like, that was genius. That was such good creativity, and it was so simple. And then there was, of course, the reveal of, like, the vase when we find out, oh, they're holding this little girl's hand. And it's like this little daffodil field around them. It's like, oh, that's so nice. It looked really nice. It didn't look overcomplicated. It looked very simple. It looked, it had a good look to it, and that's all it really needed. And as for everything else, it just kind of, you're not really in any big area. It's not like Clover, where you're like in all these exotic locations. You're at a drugstore. They're doing a job. They're going to places like parks, riversides, and you don't need to go all bombastic for stuff like that. And it's all
very
very
much
simple.
urban fantasy.
Yes, that's exactly it.
It's as a style. It's particularly considering the other series that have been done by this artist is actually sort of, her style is more economical, but in some places I almost prefer it to Mokona's because there's less sort of flashy. It's less flashy, and it suits particularly urban fantasy, with obviously the exception of Tokyo Babylon. Most of the series that are urban fantasy, she's at least partly worked on, and it's actually a more modernish style. I find Mokona's style occasionally is a little bit too fond of the sort of late 80s sort of trappings.
Yeah. Her work is really stylized, but particularly as Nikoi's work has evolved over like the 2000s, it's gotten very elegant and sleek, which is part of the reason I love Hollick's artwork so much, and so part of the reason I love the artwork here in Legal Drug. Like, she's only gotten better over the years.
But I mean, the other thing I really find about legal drug is it's actually, whilst Clamp are very good at characters, and whilst a lot of their characters are obviously dealing with complex struggles and things, I think this is actually one of Clamp's most character-driven works, because I mean, basically we have 4 major characters. They drive most of the plot. Obviously you've got sort of magical MacGuffins that are occasionally things, but we're still seeing those through the prism of Kazuhaya. I mean, this work is basically driven by its characters, and I think that's actually why it is a particularly good work by Clamp.
Yes, it certainly helps, because otherwise they're kind of vague on the plot, at least in Legal Drug, where it's just lots of mysterious comments about, like, oh, they're the one, and this is the thing, and she's clearly starting to build up to something, particularly in the 3rd volume, and then it just ends.
Yep, just, oh, we finally got something, nope, it's gone.
What do you mean our magazine's shut down?
Or at least it was until 2011, so this is probably the best time to bring things around to Drug and Drop, the sequel.
Which I know nothing
reboot.
about, so Megan, go for it.
It's kind of a sequel, kind of a reboot, and it basically picks up where things left off. I mean, I was just reading through these 2 works this weekend, and artistically, it's basically she picked up right where she left off. And story-wise, it picks up pretty much right where it left off. You cannot read Drug and Drop without having read Legal Drug, because it presumes you are already familiar with these characters and the events that have happened to them. Wouldn't you agree, Tama?
Yeah, I would have. What I've read, it's definitely very much. I mean, obviously the major thing that it sort of adds to the series is obviously the connections to Holic. That wasn't obviously a series when they were doing Legal Drug Part 1.
Yes, they're making this connections to other series way more explicit, because like within the 1st chapter they go visit Watanuki at the wish shop, and he's already taken over as the proprietor, and he sets them out on a mission, and he talks with Kikai and Saiga later on, and they're practically like old friends at that point. Oh, go ahead.
So you were gonna.
I was also gonna say it crosses over something else, but might want to talk about a few other things before we get into that reveal.
It's the thing is, I find of it as a series, it's particularly, it's an interesting period of Clamp. It's when they were going from sort of the more fantasy-based works to sort of a more realistic thing, because after this you get Chobits, which is largely set in sort of cities, you get Holic that's largely set in cities, you get Kabato that's also set largely in cities. I mean, even Gate 7, the more recent work like Gate 7 is still set in sort of large cities. It's almost like a sort of bridging point between sort of the two halves of their career, where they've gone for sort of from, you know, almost high fantasy with stuff like
Cardcaptor Sakura, X.
Ray Earth, X, to more sort of urbane stuff. Obviously, you have Tsubasa, but Tsubasa is sort of a lore unto itself, to be honest.
Indeed. And you can also tell that Nikoi took some of the criticism about, if there was any criticism about being vague with legal drugs, she clearly took that to heart, because she is just shifted things into high gear as far as moving things forward, about explaining who people are and some of the mysteries behind it. Like, we learn a lot more about Kei, we learn a lot more about Tsukiko, and we learn a lot more about Kake and Saiga and who they are and kind of what their deal is. And the boys finally start, Rikuo and Kazuhaya finally start actually kind of relating to each other as people and not just snarking at each other constantly.
But I loved the snark.
The snark is good.
Great.
It got a bit tedious after a
The
while.
chocolate chapter was wonderful.
Oh my god. For those who don't know what to talk about, there's this one point, I want to say volume 2.
Yeah, it's volume 2.
Where Kazuhaya, like, Himura's trying to wake Kazuhaya up. He throws his shoe at him, but because Kazuhaya touches it, he basically connects with Rikuo's wants and desires. And apparently, Himura has quite
chocolate.
He has quite the sweet tooth.
Chocolate!
And at that point, Kazuhaya is basically just pawing at Rikuo while he's stalking this chocolate, like, oh, give me some, please.
Oh, God.
And,
it was
and
so
everybody
great.
teases the hell out of Kazuhaya afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to those connections in Drug and Drop, making things more explicit, because it's also kind of technically a follow-up to Wish. Because Kakai and Saiga...
Wait, what? So are you saying... Wait, did you just say this sequel series to Legal Drug is also a sequel series to Wish?
Yep.
Yes.
God damn it.
Because Kakai and Saiga are in fact Hisui and Kokuyu? I think I'm remembering that right.
Yeah.
Who are kind of secondary characters in Wish, and they're in fact an angel and a demon who basically forsake their relative divine statuses to be together.
And I think the genius thing is that this was something hinted from the very beginning. The sort of it's been something that sort of has been a fan theory for like over a decade. It's sort of,
yeah, because if you look at the character designs, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that.
I can see that, and it's like Neko is like, right, okay, 1, I'm gonna make things too explicit. Yeah, 2, yeah, they're exactly who you think they are. 3, hey, look, here's Watanuki again.
And also, at another point, Kazuhaya is sent on a task alone, and he meets up with Kohaku, who's the lead of Wish. Basically wakes him up, and they apparently try to hint at some sort of connection between Kazuhaya and, I'm trying to remember the lead's name, the love interest guy from Wish, Shuichi or something like that?
I think
because they both have the same last name with the same weird kanji. And hint that Shirachi or something like that. Basically, that guy from Wish had similar powers to Kazuhaya.
So it's Clamp pretty much going, well, we can cross over everything now, and it's wonderful.
Well, I'm happy to see Wish get some love because it was so ignored for so long.
Wish is the sort
weird little series.
All I'm fearing in my head as you keep talking about this is just the little scratches of all the series I have to read before I read Drug and Drop.
Yep.
Like, just like, I'm up to, like, I think 6 at this point.
Yeah, there is.
And unfortunately, that's kind of where it is at this point, at least in English.
Yeah.
Didn't they actually do a whole, like, crossover manga already?
Yes, it was called Tsubasa Chronicles, which they've also then restarted, which is what they're working on at the moment.
Wait, what? What do you mean
Yeah, there's a sequel to
restarted?
that too, as well as a kind of midquel sequel-ish
I give
thing
up.
for Holic.
I give up on Clamp. I absolutely give up. I don't have time for all this.
Every
crap.
time you turn around, Clamp will have started another series and put another 3 on hiatus.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly true.
Eventually they'll resume X and then go and then sort of stop one chapter before it finishes, just to spite everyone.
And I think on that note, I'm gonna end us because Goddamn Clamp. Goddamn Clamp. God, we love you, but it's such a love-hate relationship.
Yes.
Alright, so final thoughts on Legal Drug. Tama, you start, because you're new.
It's an interesting series. It's Clamp does BL, what's not to love?
Alright, Megan, you're up.
Now, originally, I would have considered just a simple little curiosity, but with Drug and Drop, it's going in some interesting directions. It's hard to say until the two are complete, but I wouldn't call it one of my favorites. I wouldn't call it one of the essentials, but it's definitely one that fans of Clamp should read.
I enjoy Clamp from time to time. I sat down to read this, you know, I was actually really excited to read this because I love a good mystery. Like, I'm up to date on Detective Conan, and I want to start... I know. But, and so, I'll admit, I really liked that aspect of this, was the whole mystery, the whole supernatural mystery, just all the different things they had to do, all the different creatures and spirits they not went up against, but went looking for. And I thought that was really good, but I feel like I wasn't a fan of one of the two main characters that we saw all the time, although I loved Kaiki and Saiga. I thought they were adorable. The artwork was very nice, but story-wise, it kind of had me and lost me a lot, to be honest. Like, I would get into, like, the episodics, but then it would, like, interrupt for the plot lines between Kazuhaya and Rikuo, and I was like, okay, this is somewhat neat, but it just never hooked me as much as, like, the episode of the week did, and I feel like that was where the strength kind of came from Legal Drug. And I'm sure that, and I really do hope when I read Drug and Drop that they'll have done a better job, or at least I'll think they've done a better job of reinforcing those backstories, because I feel like that was kind of a big weakness here in Legal Drug, was that vagueness on the whole background. Like, I think I really only started to care about the backstories was when all of a sudden we saw a 2-page spread of the supposedly kitchen that we saw Rico and his supposed sister in, all covered in blood. That was a kind of a, okay, that came out of nowhere. But overall, like, I don't know. If I were to give this a rating, I would give it a 5 out of 10. Because there were things I liked, there were things I didn't like, but in the end it kind of just left me with a meh feeling.
I might aim more for like a 6 or 7 across the both of them, really. It may be more depending on how Nikoi sticks the landing.
I would give it somewhere between a 7 and an 8. It's a good series. It's basically Clamp's B artist. I agree with it's episodic in places, but what it does well.
Okay. Alright, someone else can do the math on that because I don't have pen and paper, but I'm going to end this episode now. So, Megan, you of course do manga reviews for Infinite Rainy Day and your own blog, The Manga Test Drive. Anything you want to plug?
Oh, lately on the site, I've been, of course, doing the Crunchyroll Manga Sampler, which is basically I read the first volume of every manga that's currently up on Crunchyroll's manga service and give it a review. And I'm also going to be expanding out to some other streaming sites, including one that might be of interest to Tama. Hopefully I will be getting that up soon.
I have been reading those. Those have been very fun. Yes, you all should go read that. They are very good reads. And Tama, anything you want to plug?
I am finally getting back to actually doing reviews. I will be doing a review of the aforementioned Requiem of the Rose King. I'm also working on some reviews of other series, including possibly the nastiest thing I am ever going to write about, Junjo Romantica.
Oh!
Wait, I missed the name. What was it?
Junjo Romantica.
Oh, I've never heard of it, so...
It is the worst yaoi series ever.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. That sounds like something I'll have to read just to rant about it on this show.
Oh, it's a bit too long, but if you ever do, invite us. We can have ourselves a nice little rant session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, alright, yeah, sure, we can do it. I'm working on the first long manga episode that we're doing for this, but hell, we need to fill out a couple more of those, so there you go. Junjo Romantica will eventually be on RDR, everyone. Look forward to it.
It will be bloody.
Yes.
Alright. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.